So welcome back to Stu Structures. We are here for video 15 in the series of building the coaling tower, so stay tuned. So welcome back, like I said. We are here to continue working on the coaling tower. You know, I have just, on the major structures that are putting this together, the parts of it, you know, I still have that last landing that I was working on in the last video and a couple of stair units to finish putting together to finish that walkway from the top to the bottom. And OSHA paid me a visit, and they will not let any of my HO guys on there to work on this until I get all the supports underneath all that stairs so I don't have a tragic accident on my model railroad. So I've got to come back, and you know, I talked in the last video about my punch list, and you know, there's quite a few things on that punch list really. You know, I finished those little treads underneath those ladders last week, but I've got all those supports under those walkways all the way down to finish. I've got to come back and paint the black in the mullions on the windows. You know, the very first assemblies that I built for this structure have to be mounted up at the top of this structure. There's still a little bit of conduit on the electrical system that I have to finish, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something. So as I go through this, I've got to start writing down a punch list because I've been keeping it up here, and make sure we get all this stuff done. And I'd like to add a little weathering to this as well. So let's just jump into this and see how far we can get in this video. Now, you know, these handrails I've kind of been working on in the previous episode, and you know, they reach from the top all the way to the bottom. You know, I've described these many times, but there's a whole lot of parts to these, you know, and I showed in the last video of making the last of the platforms, but we still have all these stairs that connect all those platforms together, you know, and there's just a whole lot to these assemblies. There's still actually a few other parts that I need to get into place before I can glue some of this onto the building yet. So, you know, and when I do finish this, I'm going to leave this, you know, I'm going to attach the stairs to the building, which I've shown, but the piece of stairs between the coaling tower and this mechanical building, I'm going to leave separate so I can store this for the time being. You know, and we had left this upper assembly coming down to this point, and we need to continue from here on down to that building. And we had put this platform on this lower door below that here, and so it's ready to add stairs to it. But in between those two platforms, there's one other platform. And I had made this platform in the last episode, and the stairs come down from that upper platform to this, and then on the right hand side of this they go down to that lower door platform. So I just held this in place and some stairs and kind of figured out about my lengths. I didn't really measure anything, I just kind of eyeballed this. My first set of stairs I went ahead and cut, and I'm adding the styrene here to either ends of those to make sure that, you know, they will mount and glue well to the platform. Now this angle iron here, you know, there's just some pieces that I need to mount this onto the roof. So I'm going to use this angle iron to make little, I don't know, supports or legs or whatever you want to call them, to add on to this platform to get it to mount onto that roof so that I can add the stairs to it. I just want to give it a little bit of rigidity so that it's not all just hanging out there in the air. So I make these two leg assemblies and then hold this up to the building to figure out how exactly they're going to go underneath of that. And you know, here you can see I glued the stairs on it, and I only ended up using one of those legs to begin with, but after gluing the stairs and that platform and that one leg together, at least I have that part of that in place. Now I'm going to backtrack a little bit because remember I said I needed to add a few things to this building before I kept gluing on this assembly. So, you know, there was a few pieces of this electrical conduit that I had never finished. And while I don't need to, you know, have this on for that last assembly, these last two pieces down here, I just want to go ahead and finish all the conduit. And then I wrap this piece and take it up to this corner here so I can cross over to that conduit on the other side that I wasn't sure how I was going to get power to. And this is the piece here that I really need to have in place. It comes from that junction box and crosses this roof here, and it goes to another junction box on the other side. And then once that's on there, this last piece of stairs, I just held it up to place and figured out how long it needed to be. And then I add the top and bottom plate to this so it will glue good, just like I had explained before. I put some paint on it and just go ahead and glue this into place. And basically that's the stairs in place, except for that last piece that comes down to the mechanical building. And I probably could have added the handrails before I put it on and made it easier, but duh, anyway. So I'm going to build all these handrails in place. So I'm just coming back here and adding the last stanchions to both of those assemblies so that I can finish the handrails down these last two sections of stairs that I put onto the building. And then I just come back and start adding the handrails onto that. And I just put a piece in place. I don't do a lot of measuring, which can be good or bad, but a lot of times I just add these pieces on one by one and kind of cut them off where I think they need to be, and then add the next piece and then add the next piece, and I just fill all the holes where anybody could fall off the building. And remember where these two upper assemblies came together here, I had not finished the handrails on this up here. So I come back and add the last two pieces of handrails to that section and go ahead and put some paint on that. And that section up there is now 100% complete, except for the braces under the decking. And in this lower part, once I had that finished, I can come back and put some black paint on this, and that's basically the handrails to this point down here complete and painted and well enough to continue on. So as far as the main building, from the top to the bottom now, we have this whole assembly in place. And it adds a lot of interest to the building, and I probably need to tone all this down with some weathering later on, and we'll get to that maybe, but at least for now, this looks really good. Now the last piece of conduit that I haven't put on, well, there's two pieces. This lower piece here that comes from that corner back to this concrete corner of the building here, I went ahead and put that in place. And then I ran a piece of conduit from that up to that upper junction box, and that's all of the conduit that would have fed the electrical in place on the building. So that's one thing off my punch list. Now this whole stairs from the top to the bottom, I've got to start coming back and putting bracing under all this. In the last episode I said that OSHA wouldn't allow my HO guys to work on this because it wasn't supported. So, I just come through and make tons and tons of braces. And I'm just doing a few for specific areas at a time and not getting ahead of myself. This lower platform, I made two for it and got the supports on it under the electrical box. So that whole part of that building is complete now. And then I come through and I put the two underneath this platform next to this door. So now it has support. Not that anybody could get up there to climb on up the ladder and stairs from there, but at least it's supported. Then I started at the top and kind of start working my way down. This upper platform, I went ahead and got 3 braces underneath it, so it now has supports and lights, so basically that area is complete. And I come back and add more to these 2 platforms here, and basically that gives me the support that I need for all of the platforms. Now coming on up, that upper area, we never did get supports underneath any of that very first assembly that I attached to the building. So I've got to come back and start adding bracing to all of that. So there, once again, I'm just going to make the 4 for this lower part of it and then work on the top, as a second part of this. So I make 4 of these braces for the lower end and start putting paint on those. And once I get the paint finished, I come back and start gluing those into place. So now this platform has some support underneath it so people can walk on this part of the platform. Now the very upper edge, it kind of has a weird look to it in the photos that I see, so I'm just going to make something up that would work for this. And I make this assembly that go under that one platform, and then I make a bunch of angle braces to support that and other areas of the top. And basically that's the braces that finish off the top of the platform. There's two underneath this upper platform here, and then where that stairs comes down to that next platform down, that weird set of braces goes in there, and then a couple more angle braces to support that assembly there. And basically the stairs as they are on the building to this point are complete. So now you remember the very first thing I built for this building were these lighting assemblies, these spotlights. So I'm going to come back and mount those on top of the building outside those open areas where they belong on either side of the building. And they're a little bit bulky, but I think they work, and they look okay. So I'm mounting those on either side, and then those would have required braces as well, like all the other platforms on the building. So I just make up two for each of those platforms, and go ahead and glue the base plates on the angles, and then put those in place and put some paint on them. And then once the paint is on there, these are finally the very last supports that go on the whole building. So that's another thing on my punch list that, thank God it's that part of it's done too. This is a very tedious process. It's very time consuming. So once I add these two onto this side and then come back and add the two onto the other side, then that's, all the supports for those upper assemblies in place as well. And basically that's, all the platforms pretty much done. Now the only other thing we haven't built for this is actually this stair that comes down from that upper door to the top of the mechanical building. So I just get some stairs, and I had to glue these together because there's the one section of stairs wasn't long enough. So I glued it and put it in place and figured out how long it had to be. Then I glued the plates to either end of the stair unit so that it could glue to either end securely without coming apart. Now remember this, I'm going to store that building separate from the building. There's just no way this could store, as a single unit. It will break sure as anything. So I go ahead and put some paint on this, and I'm just going to go ahead and start working on the handrails on this. And since I'm not gluing it into place, I'm just going to put all these stanchions on either side, and then I'm going to cut extra long handrails for this, that once I get to the point that I can glue all this together as a scene later on, the parts will be, or the handrails will be long enough that I can cut those off and build them in place. So I'm just coming through and putting the two lower handrails on either side onto the stanchions, and then I come back and glue the upper handrails onto the stanchions. And I'm just going to leave, like I said, all the trimming of ends till I build this in place later on once I have a layout. So I just take this outside and put some black paint on it, and that's the very last assembly or anything that has to be made for this structure. Woohoo! I'm just going to post a few shots here of the finished main structure on my table here. And it's turned out to be a nice structure. It's not the finest detail in the world, but there's a lot of detail, and it just adds a whole lot of interest to the building. We could add a few people onto some of the platforms and the ladders later on, or somebody underneath maybe shoveling some spilt coal off of tracks, or locomotive underneath this thing, and a little bit of coal added to those chutes, just a static display there. But this just turned out to be a nice structure. I'm proud of this, and I'll be happy to have this on my layout someday. So I'm going to take this outside, and I'm just going to put this on a turntable so you can get an idea of how those few auxiliary components also will fit with this building. And the sunshine gives, a bright lit to a lot of the detail. But you can see where the water chutes will be off of this one end, and the one actually gets in the center there, gets moved to the left side between those other two tracks. And the one ladder, the stairwell coming down, I just have tacky glued into place so I can take it apart when I take it in and store the building. But basically, that's how all this will sit on my model railroad once, it's in place. And this will give me all the facilities for sand, coal, and water for all of my steam locomotives. So it's a nice project, well done. So there you have the final episode of the coaling tower. This took a while to build. Actually took a long time to build. I started this, oh my God, years and years and years ago. Maybe 15, 20 years ago. I don't remember the basic structure part of it. It's really satisfying to get this to a final completion. And it's a very nice model. Most of you know I don't yet have a layout. I'm waiting in the next year or two to possibly build my own building to put a layout in. I need a good bit of room to do what I want to do, so I've just held off, and in the meantime that's why I build all these structures. And I need to start working on some rolling stock and doing other things as well, and even some of the scenery stuff. I found a new way to make trees, and in the next week or two we're going to come up with a way to make trees, and these they're nice looking trees. So we'll show you a way to make some trees from something in nature that I've not seen anybody else do before. I've seen sedum trees, and I've taken branches off of shrubs that I had and used them for armatures, and many different things to use for trees. But these I've never seen used as trees, and really they're turned out to be really nice trees. So maybe a perennial that you'll all be planting in your gardens next year for some free trees. But in any case, I do appreciate all of you coming back and sharing all this time with me. I'm not sure, besides the trees, I've got other projects in the work. I'm not sure what's going to be next as far as the videos are concerned. And until I get into full swing this spring, I may continue putting out a few videos, on Tuesdays as well. I'm not sure. By the time this comes out, I may be in full swing. It's winter is going to be coming to an end quicker than we know. So in any case, like I said, thank you for coming back and sharing this time with me. And I am picking up quite a few subscribers. I've still got a ways to go to my 1,000 mark to be monetized on my channel. And that would make a big difference as to, where my future lies on this channel. I'm not spending a lot of time every week doing the build part of these videos. It does take some time, but it also takes a fair amount of time to edit and put together videos, and it's just something that I don't mind doing. But so as time gets pressing later on, I'm not sure how much of the extra videos I can put out there. I mean, I don't get, with 15-minute, 20-minute videos per week, I don't get a lot of view time. Maybe as the subscriber rate goes up, I will get more view time, and I don't know what they require to be monetized in today's world. That, they change their rules every day to suit them and not the content providers out there like me and a bunch of you guys. But in any case, we'll see where we go in the future, and, just grab some stuff and scratch build. I'm going to continue saying this in every video, and most of you probably don't watch it till I'm rambling at the end anyway. But, play and experiment. I mean, if nothing else, kit bash a few things just to learn. That's a good way to learn scratch building, is just to kit bash with stuff you have left over from projects to make some building that, wasn't the original kits. And that's a fun process too. I have done some of that in the past. And, it's all about learning. Everything I do is not perfection. I just do things to give me the flavor of, and I'm happy with that. Hopefully when people come to my layout later on, they're going to be looking at the overall picture of things and not getting down to the nuts and bolts on things. I'm not a rivet canner. I've said that before. I like getting the flavor of. Anyway, just enjoy your trains. As winter's coming to an end, people will get busy with life. Grab some stuff out and scratch build something and enjoy it. Happy model railroading.